Hey again YouTube, Nudjob with Machete back with another review for you. The item that I'm about to show you I've had since before spring, and I've tested out all of spring and summer, and now that we're into the fall, I did a few final tests and I wanted to share it with you. One of the reasons why I didn't show it to you before now is, besides putting it through its paces, I wanted to get the opinion of some of my family members at our family reunion. A lot of them are either bush people or bushcrafters or hunters, or some of them are ex-military, and I wanted to kind of see what they thought of the item. And what it is this is the C.U.T 4.0. Now, I had a chance to talk a little bit with Joshua Swanagon, who is the designer of this knife. As you can see, it's actually even put right on the knife. And I kind of got what he had originally designed it for and what kind of tests he wanted to see. And he had told me he had originally designed it as a combat utility tool, the C.U.T. And it definitely does that. Besides being, now this is my strong hand rather than my offhand, but besides being great in underhand grip and locked in place by a rather comfortable ring, it is also really good in an overhand grip for draw cuts. Now again, this is my strong hand. Well, you could also use it as an offhand for if you had a pistol, or for instance, if you needed a backup weapon to your service piece. Now, I've actually tested this out, and this thing, when you've got it in your hand, well, let's take a close look at it. When you've got it in your hand, you can see these Micarta handle scales, which I got in kind of a tan brown. They are really comfortable. And with this ring and the Micarta scales only encapsulating a portion of it, it's actually really comfortable locked in your hand. Now it has a few good spots for you to grip up on, and it does have jimping all along the spine, which in the overhand grip, especially for power draw cuts, really locks in and is very comfortable and very effective. You'll see that in the tests. When you're using it, you actually kind of find that you're not noticing that you really have a weapon. But a lot of people have been testing this out like that, and I wanted to really test it out kind of as a bush knife, as a field knife. So that's what I really did. I did a lot of whittling while I was out at the family reunion. I didn't film it because you really don't want to see me just sit there and whittle for a long period of time. That was probably the only fault I had with this knife, is after a long period of time whittling, either using the jimping on the back of the knife or just straight gripping it like hammer fist, I found that my hands got tired. But this isn't really designed as a field knife, though it really can do pretty much anything you want in the field. In fact, you know what, why don't we go to some of the tests, and you can see I tested this on, besides a big hunk of eye of round, which did combat simple cuts on it, and it flayed that thing. I wanted to see how tough it was, and so I drove it into block of ice, and you will see what it did to that. I also wanted to see how tough the blade was, so I took some beef ribs, big thick beef ribs, and in fact they're the same beef ribs that you guys will see at a future date for my assegai spear review. And I not only stabbed into it, but I chopped the ribs. Bone is a hell of a lot more dense than wood, and if I can get this in focus, you should be able to see, pull it back a little bit, that there is no damage to the knife blade. In fact, at one point, I tried throwing this thing. While throwing it, my throwing target actually fell over, knocked the knife off course, and smashed into the tripod that you're currently resting on, and I took a chunk out of that. So let's go to my test, and I can just show you all the damage that this thing did to everything else, and the fact that it held up as well as it did. So let's go take a gander at that. into the bone 3 or 4 times. No damage to the tip. Yeah, the 4.0 is a combat knife, and it definitely knows how to open flesh. Well, I mean, the damage is just impressive for something that's, you know, actually fairly small. I mean, I do have other combat knives, and they're huge. This thing does an amazing amount of damage for just such a compact knife. But, I mean, there are reasons for that. First off, take a look at the thickness of that spine. This is a big, thick chunk of steel. But the design of it with, you know, such a slim handle with the ring on the back and just this wonderful, wonderful blade doesn't make it feel heavy. And in fact, when you're actually using the knife for combat purposes or bush purposes, you don't really notice the blade of it, or the overall weight of it, sorry. Now, of course, you can get it, customize your own micarta scales, and I think you can get serrations on it. The Tops lets you customize most of their knives to an amazing degree. But I decided to go with what most people consider the vanilla version, and I am super impressed with it. One of the other things that actually impressed me, and I'll see if I can pan the camera down in a second, is the sheath. Now, the sheath is a scout style carry. So let's pan down and I'll show you that. Apparently the universe has decided to highlight my groin while I'm doing this. Anyways, this is the sheath for the Cut 4.0. I've got it in the scout style carry up front. You could always, of course, put it in the scout style carry in the back. Now, the sheath in the knife together might remind you of something else, and that would be, some of you guys might have seen the United Cutlery Fighter. It's basically a similar design in the knife, but the sheath was the big problem I had with it. By the way, if you haven't seen that review, feel free to check it out. I'll put a link there. But this sheath is a hell of a lot better than that one, and it's molded Kydex. Tops does this stuff in-house, so it's really kind of cool. And the snap retention on it is actually rather good. Let's pan back up and we'll talk about that. I mean, we'll do a close-up of the sheath in a second, but these snaps, they're kind of like Ranger bands. They actually snap in only in one direction. So when you get them on there, let's see if I can show you that, you can't just pop them off. You have to snap them in that one direction. When both are in, I don't even have to worry about when I sit down in the car for this thing snapping off, because like I said, it's not going to pop off. It's not going to jump off my belt, because you have to actually snap them one direction only. Now, they give you fairly long bands, and when you're changing out these, like if I've got my bush belt on, it goes down to here, but obviously on like a regular belt or a dress belt, you're going to want it fairly tight. You just unscrew the buttons, and I think it's a hex screwdriver, I honestly can't remember. Unscrew it, reposition it, and screw it in place. What I found was I had to use a leather punch just to widen these holes just a little bit, so that it was easier to snap everything in. But the Kydex sheath itself, taco style around the knife, which I actually prefer, riveted in place, and it's a really secure lockup. Really secure lockup. I had this thing on my belt for, I'd say 4 days straight. When we were out at the camp, like I said, I whittled and all that crap. But we peeled potatoes with it, processed game with it. We did pretty much everything with it. One morning, I couldn't find where Dad had put the butcher knife, and we had a whole lot of bacon that we picked up from a Mennonite farm not that far from there. I just grabbed this thing and bacon. Need it for the bacon. But it's a great, great knife overall. And I have to admit, all the abuse we put it through, it's held up pretty damn well. Let's see, I batoned wood with it. No point putting it on camera. If you want to see someone baton wood with it, you can see someone else's video. Processing game was easy. I mean, you saw how it cut through that beef. Well, if you're going to use it on something like rabbit or anything like that, I mean, it's going to draw right through it. And in fact, one of my friends, actually one of the geologists I work with, as soon as he saw it, he thought this would be a fantastic skinning knife and game knife. So, yeah, I have to admit, when we use this on game, yeah, processing game was not a problem. Deer, you know, when you have to roll up the skin, you can do the draw in one cut and just peel the hide away from the meat. And this thing just, it's insane. Hell, I mean, even at one point I wanted to see whether or not I could strike a ferro rod off the spine, because it's a hard 90 spine, but as you can tell, it's got that black coating on there. Now I happen to like this black coating. This stuff is, I'm not going to say indestructible because someone will prove me wrong, but this stuff is really damn tough, and I found this was really helpful in the bush. I wasn't worried about the knife binding up or anything like that when I was processing wood or animals or even slicing cheese. But it does prevent you from striking a ferro rod off the spine. That's that, and like I said, whittling, it made my thumb hurt and my hand hurt after a while. Those are really its only limitations. As a bush knife, it is really, really good. As a combat knife, yeah, it's up there with some of my favorites. I mean, hell, reverse grip, primary hand, strong hand, offhand, whatever, it feels great, it feels really secure, and it feels like you could do a hell of a lot of damage with it. You know, holding it upright, locking your pinky in there, draw cuts. They are just devastating, like you saw on that meat. I mean, there's not really anything else I can say about this other than, you know, this is a fantastic knife. Let's do another close-up, because I just love this knife so much. These handles, by the way, I didn't think they were going to be that comfortable. They are really, really comfortable. In fact, when we were doing the potatoes, my dad borrowed this to peel a whole bunch of potatoes. Goes to wash it off, just dunks it in the potato water and tosses it back to me. So yeah, we kind of abused the knife just a little bit. But the handles, even after getting dunked in the potato water, I had to use it on some kindling to get the fire going, to boil the potatoes. And the grip with that handle was just perfect. Did up the kindling, we had a fire, we had potatoes. I can't even remember what the hell else we had, but I remember it was a good dinner. But yeah, tops cut 4.0. I mean, the sheath is awesome. The knife is insane. Do I think it was a properly designed knife? Oh, hell yeah, Joshua, you did an awesome job. You know, I think if you guys have the cash, the only drawback was the original purchase price. Tops, their knives are not cheap, but holy shit, when you pay for a Tops knife, you're getting a goddamn good knife. One of my coworkers bought a mini Scandi and he absolutely loves it. Me, I went for something slightly bigger, slightly more combat oriented, something that I could take into the field, and I am impressed with this thing. If you have the cash, and if you want, I'll put a link down below to where I got it. You should probably go ahead and order one of these, because holy crap, will you enjoy it. Oh, I haven't showed you how sharp it is. Let's do that. Yeah, that's after all of the abusive tests that you saw. So, yeah, damn good knife. It's not really anything else I can add to it. Well, that's about it, guys. As always, thanks for watching this review. If you like this review, feel free to click like. Feel free to subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And as always, please feel free to share this video as much as you want. And until next time, guys, I'm Nutjob with a machete. Stay sharp.